military operations. Like my dad was behind the movie Top Gun. He arranged for the Miramar Air Force Base to be used for Top Gun.
Oh, wow.
That's the kind of things he did. So I said to my dad, what do you think of a professional wrestling show on an aircraft carrier? And he said, it's doable. Let me know when you're ready to go to that spot.
Wow.
And, of course, we never got there. But that's the kind of thought process that Joe and Bill Eadie and eventually Eddie Gilbert and I, we were going towards that.
Right.
We had big dreams. Unfortunately, we just didn't have the finances to get there.
Now, you've mentioned Bill Eadie a number of times, and we interviewed Bill Eadie about a year ago, and I feel like a fool because I had no idea that he was even part of the Global Wrestling Federation. We're talking about Demolition Axe.
Yeah, he was a part of it. He was pretty much the booker for probably about the first 2 or 3 months. He did the initial tournament, and I think that he realized that things weren't ever going to get off the ground, and when we started not being able to fly people in and do the big kind of show that everyone thought we were going to be able to do, he said, maybe it's best that I take a step back. It wasn't anything awful. Wasn't anything unfriendly. He just said, you guys do your show. I'm going to go do my thing, and I appreciate you putting the trust in me. Once again, a friendly thing that just didn't happen to work out. But it was he got us off the ground. It was his creative mind that helped move things, and I'm pretty sure that he and Joe together were the ones that came up with the Patriot gimmick. And Del Wilkes could have very easily come out as a really muscular superstar, and they put a mask on top of him, and Del wasn't sure that it was going to work, but Bill and Joe were sure that this would take him to heights that he would have never have thought of, and sure enough, it did. First time he came out, He was absolutely over.
He was, and you know what? I mean, the best gimmick that I ever saw you guys do, the best feud I ever saw you do, was Dark Patriot versus the Patriot, and that was the story. There you go.
I have to laugh when you said that because I did a one-man improv show a couple weeks ago, and Steve Prazak, who played Stephen DeTruth on our show, wrote into Meltzer and talked about the fact that I was doing the show, and he said there's no truth to the rumor that the Dark Patriot has been banned from the building. It made me crack up.
That's actually something cool that I wanted to announce now is that the Dark Patriot, Doug Gilbert, will be joining us in actually just a few weeks on the show as part of our tribute here to Global, so I thought that was pretty cool to tie in there. But I do want to mention this, kind of going along the same lines as when you mentioned the aircraft carrier and the dangers that were involved. You were gone by this point, but Global stayed around after you left, and they did one of the matches that had to be the craziest thing I've ever seen, and you might know where I'm going with it. It was Stan Lane versus Chaz in a bungee cord match. Any thoughts on that one?
Anything that Gray Pearson had to do with probably made me sick. And you can tell that it's difficult for me to talk about this part. The Doyle King and whoever the guy was that replaced me originally.
I don't even know. You know what? I was actually going to ask you that because I don't remember his name, but I do know Doyle.
I can't even remember the guy's name, but the guy who got hit in the head and became Elvis. The stuff that they did on that show sickened me so much because it had the Global name on it.
Wow.
And we had worked so hard to make such a wonderful show. To watch them tear it down piece by piece like that made Joe and myself sick to our stomachs.
Wow.
We had really hard to create a wrestling company that had some sort of, dare I say, legitimacy, in that we were trying to not only build characters, but build attachments between fans and wrestlers. Give them something more than, this is a character we're going to push down your throat. This is a wrestler that we want to get you to know. There's a reason we put cameras back in the locker rooms to show you, and it was something we actually got from American Gladiators. I'll tell you, I took that straight from American Gladiators when they showed the contestants and the gladiators warming up back there. It was just another way to provide connections between the wrestlers and the fans that showed you they're warming up for their match. And if you think about the wrestling that you see today, what is it that you see before somebody comes out on Raw or somebody comes out on SmackDown? You see their last moments as they're walking backstage coming towards the ring. Mm-hmm. Vince wasn't doing that back then. WCW wasn't doing it back then. And they had all the production trucks and the money in the world. We had a van the size of a minivan with a switcher about the size of a laptop and 5 monitors. I mean, we had zero production ability, yet we were pulling off stuff that all it took was imagination. It didn't take technology; it took imagination. And then to watch Gray Pearson throw most of it out the window, that sickened me.
The thing
and
is,
I don't get sickened. I don't get sickened a lot. I don't have a lot of ill feelings towards many people, but that one really got to me.
The thing about that is when people think global, if they remember anything from the later years, it's just Maniac Mike Davis and his crazy antics. They don't remember any angles from that day, those era. They don't remember anything like that. And Mike Davis was with you guys during your time too, so it wasn't like it was anything new that they were doing. But that's the only thing people remember from them. But if they think of global, they remember the early days where people like Buff Bagwell and Rip Rogers and all of them were on the show. They don't remember much about the later years with. I think they brought back Iceman Parsons and and Chris Adams and guys like that at the very end.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's true. I think you've got to remember that if you can rest easy at night knowing that most people don't remember that era of global, that's true.
Thank God.
Oh, man. So let me ask you this. This might be a tough question to ask, and I have to ask it.
Oh, that's fine.
Okay. Backstage, Jeff Gaylord approaches Eddie Gilbert and asks basically for a job. And apparently, shortly thereafter, all hell breaks loose, and Eddie Gilbert eventually leaves the company over the kind of things that happened. In an interview that he did shortly before he passed away, Eddie Gilbert, that is, he mentioned you were there, and he said that you just honestly didn't think you knew what was going on. He just thought that, you thought it was part of a storyline. Any idea what in the hell happened there?
No.
Not a clue?
I was delightfully oblivious. I'm the kind of guy who, and Jerry Jarrett found this charming, and Skandor Akbar found it even more charming. I said, give me the list of matches. I don't even want to know who goes over.
Really?
And they said, why? I said, because I want to be surprised. I'm a fan. And I said, and I can react accordingly. And for all the USWA days, I had no idea who was going to go over.
Wow. And
that is what helped that's what got Steve Beverly noticing me. That's what got Bill Apter starting to write nice little things about me. Because I was a fan watching along with you, and I was genuinely surprised what would happen. What a concept.
Nowadays, it seems like they know everything in advance. There's no feeling that anything that they're doing is at all surprising. It's just very... It really is, and it's sad for me to say, but when you watch, especially Raw, because you got to put that as the flagship show of the entire wrestling business, when you watch it, it's just so formulaic. It's boring.
Well, and from what I understand, I don't know. I've never worked on Raw, and I admire Jim Ross. I admire what he does. I think Lawler does a really nice job as well. I still like Jerry. Jerry is somebody that when I went up to see him in a show, God, it must have been about 10 years ago, he still remembers me and says hello. That's the nice part about it.
Wow.
But when, from what I understand, the headsets are on there for a reason, and that's because there's no improvisation in the play-by-play there. It's pretty much, this is what you're going to talk about now, this is what you're going to talk about now, and if you're about to say something, I'm going to tell you what to say because somebody's on a headset back in the back telling you what to say if you don't know what to say.
Apparently that's why Mick Foley quit.
Oh, have you ever seen the movie Broadcast News?
Yeah. Yep.
It reminds me of the Holly Hunter character talking William Hurt through the live special report. Here's a guy who knows nothing about news, and he comes off as a genius.
That's true.
And you know, any glossy 8x10 can get up there and do that.
Wow.
And the fact is, the only reason that, and you all love this, and it's a guy you love to hate, the only reason that I didn't continue in the wrestling business, and there is one and only reason that I did not continue in the wrestling business, because I lived in Atlanta, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
I worked in CNN Center.
Whoa.
Making $18,000 a year at age 30 just to stay in the television business because I couldn't get a job with World Championship Wrestling.
Why is that?
And the reason why was not my announcing. It was the fact that I was 6'4" tall. And Eric Bischoff would not hire me because I made his wrestlers look small.
This might
forget the fact that you're going to be sitting down most of the time, so nobody would notice.
That is the only reason I could not get hired at World Championship Wrestling.
Wow.
That's amazing.
How tall is Scott Hudson, though?
Scott Hudson's 6'2", or maybe 6'1".
He eventually got hired?
Yep.
That's really
weird.
Like,
how does that, you know, if a guy is good enough, and I realized that the interviews I had with Bill Dundee, I'd have to stoop down because he was legitimately 5'0".
That's true.
And when they brought in Megatron or whoever he was, not Megatron, the alleged 7-foot guy that was in WCW for a while, and they brought him in. And here he is, the 7-foot tall guy, and the guy was looking at me eye to eye, and I knew I had to stoop down and try to interview him because that was a joke.
Mm-hmm.
I could understand that, but there are ways to get around that. And here I was a legitimately good announcer, and I couldn't work for them. Now, as it turned out, and I'm going to do a little bragging here, as it turned out, I discovered I was a much better guy behind the scenes than I ever was in front of the microphone. Mm-hmm. I ended up winning 7 Emmy Awards.
7?
For my work. 7, they're regional Emmy Awards, but 7 Emmy Awards for my work in sports television, producing local sports shows here in Seattle.
Wow.
I don't think I would have ever done that in the wrestling business. I might have won a Pro Wrestling Illustrated award and have Bill Apter have his cheesy grin going, "Congratulations, John," or "Congratulations, Craig."
There you go.
But if I had stayed in that, I wouldn't have 2 beautiful kids. I wouldn't have my wife. I would have never discovered improv. I would have never enjoyed working in college athletics, which is what I do now. You know, there are certain reasons why certain things happen. Do I miss my days in the wrestling business? Immensely. It is one of my favorite times in the world. How do I make up for it now? I work in roller derby.
Wow, you traded one thing for the other. That's pretty impressive.
I don't announce it, and I'm a PA announcer where I bring out one of the teams. But that's how I make up for it.
You and Queen Kong, right?
I didn't know she was in that.
She was in roller derby for a while, yeah.
That's funny.
Not Awesome Kong, Queen Kong.
I work with the Rat City Roller Girls here in Seattle, and I'm the announcer for the Socket Wenches. Oh, and I'm also the guy who does all the video worked for the Roller Girls for